She looks calm, doesn't she? Laughing in new photos, posting her fresh start, surrounded by new faces that make it look like she's moved on. But what if I told you that behind every rebound, there's a storm quietly forming? That every smile hides a silent negotiation with regret, and every distraction is just a pause before the truth returns. In this video, we'll break down the 4 hidden stages every dumper walks through when they try to replace you, only to realize they can't escape themselves. You'll understand what really happens after they leave, why the rebound feels so powerful yet collapses so quickly, and how time turns illusion into awareness. By the end, you'll see that your silence isn't weakness. It's the mirror that forces them to face what they've been running from. If you've ever wondered what happens after the breakup dust settles, stay with me, brother. This will change how you see the entire process. Start this journey now. Like this video. If you've ever felt someone pretend they've moved on, comment stillness below if you've chosen peace over reaction, and share this with a brother who needs to hear it today. Because what begins as escape always ends in revelation. And that revelation begins right here with Stage 1, the escape. Brother, you think she's happy because she's smiling in those new pictures, but those smiles are just camouflage. What you're really seeing isn't peace, it's flight. When a relationship ends, the dumper often mistakes relief for healing. They've carried months of tension, guilt, and confusion, and when they finally let go, the silence feels like freedom. But that freedom is only the echo of avoidance. Inside, the truth is far less calm. Solitude scares them. The quiet moments remind them of what they've lost, of what they can't fix, and of the parts of themselves they don't want to face. Nights stretch longer. Their phone feels heavier. Even laughter sounds forced, because the heart knows when it's pretending. So instead of facing the emptiness, they do what most people do when they're terrified of themselves. They rush. They rush into someone new, someone easy to talk to, easy to please, easy to believe in. Maybe it's a friend who's always lingered close. Maybe it's a backup who's been waiting for their chance. It doesn't matter who. It's not about the person. It's about the escape. What they're chasing isn't love, it's relief. It's distraction dressed as destiny, comfort masquerading as connection. For a while, it works. The constant texting, the attention, the novelty, it all numbs the ache. They tell themselves they're over you, that they've outgrown the past. But no one truly moves on without reflection. You can't outrun the mirror, and you can't heal in the same storm you refuse to face. Every unprocessed emotion eventually circles back, louder, clearer, and demanding to be felt. Write this down, brother. The first act of a rebound isn't love, it's escape. And escape always comes with a cost, because sooner or later, when the noise fades and the rush ends, they'll have to stop running. And that's when the illusion begins to form. But what happens when the fantasy feels real until it suddenly doesn't? Drop a 1 in the comments if you've seen someone run from silence like it was fire, and a 2 if you felt that silence teach you who you truly are. Stage 2, the illusion. She calls it chemistry, but it's just chaos dressed as comfort. This is where the dumper dives headfirst into what looks like a fresh start, when in truth it's just an echo of what they were trying to escape. Everything happens too fast. Deep talks that feel meaningful, laughter that feels effortless, public smiles that feel convincing. They rush through intimacy like someone trying to fill a void before it can speak. It feels alive, even electric. They call it love, but it's dopamine in disguise. In this high-speed fantasy, the dumper projects everything they wanted the old relationship to be onto someone new. They don't see the person, they see possibility. They use the new partner as a symbol that leaving was the right choice. But symbols aren't people. and fantasy can't hold the weight of reality. They're not falling in love, they're falling into relief. This isn't connection, it's confirmation. It's proof to themselves that they've moved on, that the pain didn't leave a scar. But illusions, no matter how beautiful, always crack. When the rush fades and the conversations turn quiet, that same emptiness they buried begins to rise again, sharper now, because it's hidden behind a smile. Brother, remember this. Illusions can mimic passion, but they can never bring peace. Peace demands truth, and truth doesn't rush. The faster something burns, the quicker it turns to ash. Because sooner or later, that perfect love starts to lose its shine, and when the thrill fades, reality walks back in. That's when the high turns into hesitation, and the illusion gives way to something far more revealing. Stage 3. The awakening. Every distraction has an expiration date. No matter how bright the illusion burns, the flame always fades, and when it does, the silence that once terrified them returns, heavier than before. The dumper starts to feel the weight of their choices. What once felt like freedom now feels like emptiness wearing a mask of excitement. The noise quiets, the novelty dulls, and for the first time since the breakup, they're forced to look at what's real. They begin to notice cracks, first in their new partner, then in themselves. The same impatience, pride, and avoidance they thought they left behind start showing up again. The same arguments, the same emotional patterns, the same walls. Because when you don't face your pain, it doesn't disappear, it just changes its disguise. They start to realize that this new relationship isn't a new chapter. It's a rerun of an old story, written with different names, but the same mistakes. And then something unexpected happens. The memories they buried start to rise. They remember the way you steadied the storm when everything fell apart. They remember how you listened without judgment, how your laughter came naturally, how your presence felt like home. They realize that what they called boring was actually peace, and what they call excitement now feels exhausting. Regret doesn't arrive like thunder. It whispers. It speaks in quiet thoughts like, maybe I made a mistake. This is the moment when comparison begins its silent work. Every flaw in their new partner reminds them of a strength you had. Every moment of misunderstanding makes them long for the simplicity you brought. They don't want to admit it, but the truth is clear. You can't build a new life on unfinished lessons. You can change partners, you can change cities, you can even change your routine, but until you change yourself, every new beginning becomes the same ending. They might even test the waters, sending a message, asking about something small, pretending it's casual, but what they're really doing is checking to see if the door they once slammed shut is still open. Deep down, they know they left something real behind, something that distraction can't replace. Because the further they go, the more they realize that it wasn't you they were running from, it was their own reflection. And as the fog of fantasy clears, they finally see the rebound for what it truly was. Not love, but avoidance. Not healing, but delay. Not connection, but denial. This is the painful clarity that hits hardest. The understanding that you can't escape the lessons your soul needs to learn. Brother, this is where the energy shifts. The excitement dies, but the truth begins to breathe again. They start to see you differently, not through ego, but through hindsight. The mirror no longer flatters, it reveals. And once that happens, there's no going back to pretending. Because the awakening always leads to a reckoning, and the next stage will decide whether they finally face themselves or keep running from what they've become. Stage 4. The reckoning. The silence they once ran from now becomes their teacher. This is the moment when everything catches up. The noise, the distractions, the pretending. The dumper stands face to face with the truth they've been avoiding. The thrill has faded, the fantasy has burned out, and what remains is the raw sound of their own thoughts. They are at a crossroads. Keep pretending the new relationship is fine, or finally admit that the problem was never the partner. It was the pain they refused to face. This is the emotional reckoning. It's the moment pride meets consequence. To stay means to rebuild, to own the damage, and to start again from honesty. But most can't do that, because rebuilding means humility, and humility feels like defeat to the ego. So instead of facing the mirror, many choose to run again, jumping from one person to the next, mistaking motion for healing. They tell themselves they're searching for the right one, but what they're really doing is running from the right lesson. The lesson is this: heartbreak isn't something you escape, it's something you evolve through. The ones who grow are the ones who stop searching for replacements and start searching within. They finally sit in the silence they once feared, and in that stillness something sacred happens. They start to see their reflection, not the version filtered through validation or fantasy, but the one that's real. The silence that once felt unbearable becomes the beginning of wisdom. For the first time, they allow the pain to speak instead of drowning it. They face the guilt of what they lost, the patterns they repeated, the love they took for granted, and slowly, understanding replaces denial. The same heart that once sought distraction now seeks depth. The same mind that once chased control now craves clarity. They begin to realize that what they thought was an ending was really an awakening. And brother, if you're the one left behind, this is where your power lies. Don't mistake their silence, their posts, or their new love as victory. Those are only masks they wear while learning lessons the hard way. You are not losing to their illusion. You're simply watching them walk the long road to the truth you already discovered. They will come to understand what you learned in stillness, that peace doesn't come from getting what you want, but from accepting what is, because eventually everyone meets themselves. Some do it through peace, others through pain, but no one escapes it. The silence that once separated you will become the same silence that teaches them. And when it does, you won't need to prove anything. You'll already be standing where they're trying to arrive, on the other side of chaos, steady, grounded, and free. That's the real reckoning, not when they realize they lost you, but when they finally understand why. Rebound relationships are not new beginnings. They are detours disguised as progress. They are the universe's quiet way of reminding us that no matter how far we run, the lessons we avoid will always find us again. What feels like freedom at first often turns into repetition, because you can't start a new chapter while still rereading the old one. The rebound is not a failure of love, it's a mirror reflecting what still needs to be healed. These connections move fast, burn bright, and fade quickly, but they leave behind something valuable, a glimpse of truth. They show that healing can't be rushed, that depth can't be faked, and that love, when real, doesn't demand escape. Every detour has a purpose, to push us back toward ourselves, to force us to confront the silence we once feared, and to teach us that peace cannot be borrowed from another soul. It must be built within. So if you've been hurt by someone who jumped too soon, don't let their haste shake your calm. Stay grounded in your silence, hold your frame, let time do what emotion cannot. The storm that once broke you will become the proof of your steadiness. You are not behind, you are becoming. Because the truth always comes full circle. The same silence they feared will one day be their guide. The same calm you chose will become your power. And when the circle finally closes, peace will belong not to the one who ran from pain, but to the one who faced it with courage, grace, and stillness. Brother, if this message hits something deep in you, take a breath and own it. Don't just scroll. Claim your calm, your growth, your silence. Drop your thoughts below. I read every one of them. If this helped you see the truth behind their rebound, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. You never know who's silently fighting the same battle. And if you're still wondering what happens when your silence finally reaches her, when she starts to feel the weight of losing you, click right here for the next video. It will open your eyes to the power that begins the moment you stop chasing. I'll meet you there.